How do you think about something where in a laboratory you can see something like protein synthesis peaks 48 hours later, so therefore train every 72 hours versus the real world phenomenon?
It's all very interesting, but if it doesn't work in practicality, what's it worth? The number one thing that I hear from people is, I don't really have time for that. I have a business, I have a family. I said, if you could give me 45 minutes twice a week, that's all you need to do.
What I love about you is that you've done things at the ultra elite level within bodybuilding, but the advice that you're giving right now is very practical for the everyday person.
You know, I hear this a lot now about this science-based training, but I actually don't know what science they're talking about. I didn't have skills, I didn't have a family, you know, all this stuff. So bodybuilding was my road to change my life.
So I know that your opinion on real world results versus laboratory studies, but these days, let me just put something out there. I'd like to see your response. These days, people will talk a lot about, okay, the studies or muscle biopsies show you train a muscle and stimulate hypertrophy, growth, and then muscle protein synthesis peaks, 48 hours later, which means that you can hit the muscle again, ideally 3 days later or 2 days later.
Okay.
I tried that because I thought, hey, listen, I'm a scientist, I'll try it. And I immediately started going backwards with my progress. This was a few years ago. And went back to training each thing directly once per week. And where there's indirect stuff, arms getting hit once indirectly because of a chest and back workout on a separate day, I went right back to progress again. And so, I'm a scientist trained to do science. So how do you think about something where in a laboratory you can see something like protein synthesis peaks 48 hours later, so therefore train every 72 hours versus the real world phenomenon?
It's all very interesting, but if it doesn't work in practicality, what's it worth? I hear this a lot now about this science-based training, but I actually don't know what science they're talking about. I mean, some meta studies, I think, but how were those studies carried out? With whom? And so on and so on. I don't know. I know the case of the Yates study where he put on 65 pounds of muscle, verified in a month by training like less than about an hour a week, I think.
Those were whole body,
I think it was whole body
sets
stuff.
to failure.
And yes, he was very underweight because he wasn't on anything, and then he got sick, so he's underweight. So he's building back muscle, but he wouldn't build it back without much stimulus. So 65 pound of muscle, although it was muscle memory, let's say, had been that big before, but he put it on in a month, and you compare that with Arnold that dieted down to 210, I think, to do this film, Stay Hungry. Then he went back up to 230 for the Mr. Olympia, but that took him like 3 months. So you can compare the two. So when the people talk about these science-based studies and you shouldn't train to failure, it's better to keep reps in reserve, I don't know which studies they're talking about. I'm not saying they're not out there, but I'm not familiar with them. I'm not familiar with how they carried out the studies. But if it doesn't work in practicality, does it really matter? It doesn't matter.
Often I've spent some time with these, and you might not be surprised to learn that a lot of times it's, we got some college students, they're doing leg extensions, we're looking at, biopsies of the quadriceps, this kind of thing. Rarely is it the kind of compound movements, multi-joint movements, sometimes, but not always. Well, look, my experience with the HIIT, high intensity, lowish volume training has been, I'll say it's not just about gaining muscle. I mean, I'm now 50. I know you're almost 64.
Yep, coming up.
Looking amazing. You'll tell us more about longevity stuff in a bit. But I have to say part of it is also that if one trains the way that you're describing, each muscle once per week, focusing on intensity, not volume, and so forth, 6 weeks or so, then backing off for 2 weeks, you also find that in your peer group, you're not the one always complaining about pain, and you have energy for other things, which we'll get back to. I mean, unless you're a competitive bodybuilder, most people, including myself, need energy to tend to life and want to be able to enjoy, it's not the soreness, it's the constant aches and pains that come from overtraining, I think, that most people don't have to live with, but think they do.
It depends on your goals, yeah? But I really believe the average person, that wants to get health benefits from bodybuilding, weight training, resistance, whatever you want to call it, right? They should have a guy that's 40 or 50 or 60, guy or a lady, whatever. The idea is if you could, because you've lost muscle mass slowly since maybe 1% a year since you're 40, right? And this is affecting your health, your metabolism, the ability to process sugar, many, many things, bone strength. And the number one thing that I hear from people is, I don't really have time for that. I have a business, I have a family. I said, if you could give me 45 minutes twice a week, that's all you need to do. Okay, you need to eat properly and everything like that. But that's all you need to do for the average person. If you took 8 to 10 exercises that covered your whole body and you did it twice a week, that would be enough for the average person. 1 for chest, 1 or 2 for back, 1 or 2 for legs. Hey, if you want to do some bicep curls and some triceps, you can do it, but you're doing pressing anyway. So for the average person, that would actually be enough. And it's not theory because I've done it with people. Like I'm saying, this gentleman that came along, we put 45 minutes in, nearly an hour, 3 times a week, because I had him doing cardio as well. Well, guess how long the cardio was? 6 minutes. 6 minutes.
You got to pedal hard.
We're doing sprints, like on an air bike. It's my favorite because it engages every muscle, push, pull, legs. If you do a 20-second all out and you can see how you got on the side of the thing, you can see how much watts you're generating. So now you have a target to hit or exceed every time. So do a minute and a half warm up, whatever. Feel warm, all out, balls out like the devil's chasing you for 20 seconds. First one's tough, but it's okay. Go down slowly for a minute, do the second one all out. The second one's really tough, yeah? The third one is, I've never met anybody that wants to do one after the third one, yeah? Because literally you can't breathe. And the benefits from that, again, I think there's a book called The 1 Minute Cardio. It's a bit tricky because it's not really 1 minute. It's 1 minute of sprints, but it's 6 minutes in total. And they compared that to 45 minutes of steady cardio on a treadmill or whatever it is. And the results are more or less the same. So what do you want to do? Do you want to spend 6 minutes or do you want to spend 45 minutes? I'd rather do the 6 minutes. I do a bit of long cardio as well myself because I like biking in the mountains and stuff. But if you did that twice a week, along with some weight training, that would be amazing. You change your life, literally, with that and a good diet. So the whole time thing, excuses, it's not relevant. I'm not listening. You don't need a lot of time.
Well, what I love about you is that you've done things at the ultra elite level within bodybuilding, but the advice that you're giving right now is very practical for the everyday person. And I'm not a psychologist, but I'm going to venture a hypothesis here, which is that some of that has to do with the fact that you grew up blue collar background from Birmingham, working full time while building out your bodybuilding career. You didn't come to it with a briefcase full of cash and have the opportunity to just say, oh, how much training can you do? Well, let's figure it out. Like, you had to be very practical. And my guess is that you had to be very practical about recovery and nutrition as well. You probably, I'm guessing there was a point in your life where you couldn't afford, grass-fed meat shipped in from south of France and this guy. I'm not saying you do that now.
Let me tell you a story, man. When I was British champion, that was a big thing back then, British champion, right? 3,000 people in the audience, packed out. We had buses coming from my gym, all this stuff, air horns. British bodybuilding crowds are not like, they're pretty rowdy. They're not,
I think the Brits around any sport get pretty rowdy.
They're pretty rowdy. If you see boxing in Vegas and there's a British fighter, they take over the whole place. So anyway, this great accolade, I'm British champion now. And I went home. I got no car. I'm living in a council estate. It's like projects, council estate. I got no carpet in my bedroom. I don't even have a proper bed. I just got a mattress, I got a TV that barely works, and I got a trophy. I'm like, wow, look, I'm British champion, but nobody gives a fuck, really. Like, I do, and the people that's in the bodybuilding community, but this hasn't translated into anything yet. It took me about 5 years of really, 100% dedication for me to turn pro. And the ironic thing is, I guess, like when you're starting and you got nothing, nobody's very interested and nobody wants to help you. And when you become successful, people want to help you because they want to help themselves, which is fair enough. It's a transaction, but until then, no. So I got my first car when I was 25. All my friends were driving 18, 19. But the funny thing is, I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. I knew I was on this mission. And this in itself was so powerful. Like nobody else had that. I had this mission that I was doing, which was to change my life, basically. And bodybuilding was the vehicle. And I think something that really helped me is I'm an avid reader. I have been since I was about 10 years old, and I can take in a lot of information on a subject if I'm very interested. I'll almost get obsessed with it for a while, and then I might just say, forget about that. I'll go interested in something else. So all the guys that I was training with, they were like just watching videos and listening to other guys in the gym. I was reading Mike Mentz, I was reading Arthur Jones. I was trying to figure it out for myself, which means you need a very independent kind of personality. So yeah, let me try do a bit more. Doesn't work, finished, you know? And the fact that I've got all this, every single workout from 1983 to 1997 written down, all the diets, later on when I'm using anabolics, what I'm using and how long, and all this stuff so I could analyze it, you know, see what's working and what's not working. A lot of guys were like shooting in the dark, hoping they're going to hit something, but they don't. And I didn't have time to waste. This was a mission. I didn't have skills, I didn't have a family, all this stuff. So bodybuilding was my road to change my life. Where it was going at first, I didn't know, but I knew it was going somewhere. I knew I could be very good at it.
Did you have the sense, even before all this, that perhaps you were different or that you were destined to pursue something?
100%.
From the,
I always
what's your
knew.
earliest recollection of knowing that you were going to aspire to some very high peak?
Well, the first thing I was into was Bruce Lee, right? So, Bruce Lee, and then even I was impressed with his physique then. But now I look, compared to a bodybuilder, it's very lean, but the abs and everything, had that poster on the wall, with the cuts down there and everything. So I was doing push-ups. Just at my last year at school, I started getting bodybuilding magazines and doing a bit of weight training. So there was that then. I left home at 16 and I just didn't have the lifestyle to pursue it. And for some reason, I'm not doing this. I said, I'm not doing this until I can do it properly. And I always knew I was different, I guess, but I didn't know why and I didn't know where it was going, but I knew it was going somewhere. And it's a strange feeling through my whole process. I feel like I've done it before, almost, like it was destined, like wasn't a surprise. In the earlier years, it's like, I just knew I got to just put everything into this. I got to put everything into this, and I can't let anything distract me, 100% into this. So yeah, I knew I was destined for something, and when I started doing bodybuilding, I was so this is it, yeah. I don't know if you heard the story, but I got a little bit of trouble. Just rowdy guys, really. We got picked up on the street at the wrong time because there were some street riots in Birmingham, which we weren't involved with, but wrong place, wrong time. Got sent to a detention center, and in there they had weights, and there was 300 guys, and I was nearly the strongest guy in there. There was the only guy who was stronger than me was like 50, 60 pounds heavier. And I was really lean. I had abs and everything. Everyone was like, wow, the physique. Even the prison officers in there were like, you should do something with this. I said, don't worry, I'm going to. So that was another one like, hey, you've got something here. There's a crossroads here. And I was like, I never want to be in a place like this again and lose my freedom. You literally become a number and you're told when to get up and when to do this. And
those places suck.
And I saw people in there that I knew they were destined to this is their life. Even they didn't care. Yeah, I know, but I don't give a fuck. I might be in jail, but this is just the life I've chosen. Well, good luck with that, man. It's not for me, So that again was like, hey, you need to do something with this. And when I left there, I didn't start training. I was like, I got to get a job. I got to get an apartment. I got to get stability. And when I did, I was like, right, I start my bodybuilding journey. Write it down today, the date. I still got it, man.